Can you describe the steps from the moment of inspiration to the final piece?
I think the first thing I did was had a really good long look at the statues as much as I could. There was going to be a lot there that I'd be using, and well, that turned out to be the case, certainly, because they're very characterful. There are some days where nothing interesting is coming out. So that's actually how I came up with a couple of the ones for this piece. I think I did about 30 different little bits of thematic material to work with, and then I just sort of crossed them all out.
Do you prefer to have a clear assignment or to have a free hand in your work?
For certain things, it is actually easier to go off of a prompt. So I find setting text much easier than I do writing just pure instrumental music, for instance, for that reason, because the text is something you're interacting with and you're almost composing against it rather than just trying to pull an idea out of the air.
How do you work with spatial audio?
I've done it before in a very different context. So that context, it was an irregularly shaped gallery. We'd been there before we actually started writing the piece. So I had that in mind, of the fact that the surfaces the sound is going to be bouncing off of are going to be sort of irregular. So I tried to work that into the piece. With this one, it was a bit tricky because I knew that I wanted the instruments to be in groups. Yeah, it's a solid unit in my mind. So breaking it up felt a bit strange, but I was trying to think about how I would want someone to hear it if they're sat in the center of the sound rather than the sound being directed at them.
Do you find it bothering that the listener can decide what they hear when they can move freely in VR?
I don't think it changes at all, because I think that's how people listen anyway. I think just because you can walk towards a particular sound physically, well, in this case, it's basically physical space, so I can treat it that way. I don't think it really changes my role, because you can do that with your ears. In my view, it was just create a sound that they can be inside.
Do you have your audience in mind while composing?
I try to trust myself on that front, because I think it's very easy to start closing down ideas when you get into the mindset of, oh, I don't think the audience is going to like X, Y, and Z. I can see how someone else would appreciate that, or I can see things about that somebody else would appreciate, even if they didn't have like the insider view of the piece. And I tend to show it to people who aren't musicians as well, because that's a very difficult mindset to get outside of. If everybody knows a musician, they'll have a particular way of listening.
Why do you compose?
I definitely like games and systems and puzzles. So part of the enjoyment of a piece for me is putting a puzzle together and making this thing work.